Hey there, and welcome back to Ditching Diabetes. I'm Stephanie, your host, and today we're going to talk about something that I feel like is really important, especially as a woman, and that's cardiac. And you might be wondering, what the heck does your heart have to do with type 2 diabetes? And I'm so glad you asked because I have a lot to talk about. Let's dive in. All right, and welcome back. Today we're wrapping up our lab series, and this is the final installment. And I have to tell you, I say one of the most important ones for last. We're talking about cardiac markers. I know, stay with me. I promise this is not going to feel like a medical school lecture, but here's the thing. You have type 2 diabetes and you're in the pre-diabetic range or metabolic disease, your heart is already a part of this conversation, whether you invite it or not. Diabetes and heart disease unfortunately go hand in hand, and as a type 2 diabetic, we are 2.5 times more at risk of getting cardiac disease. Stroke, means heart attack, all of those nasty things that I want to make sure that you are armed with all the information that you need to stay healthy. All right? Welcome to the Diabetes Maven, the podcast for women who are done feeling stuck and ready to take control of type 2 diabetes. I'm your host, Stephanie, a nurse practitioner and type 2 diabetic, and a woman on a mission to help you ditch diabetes for good. If you've ever felt frustrated by confusing advice, tired of the blood sugar roller coasters, and wondered if true healing is even possible, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll talk about what really moves the needle, from balancing your blood sugar, your metabolism, building healthy mindsets, and eating smarter, moving with purpose, and strengthening your faith along the way. Because managing diabetes isn't just about numbers. It's about freedom, energy, and living the life God designed for you, without complications. Subscribe to the Diabetes Maven wherever you listen to podcasts, and let's take this journey together. Okay, so let me just set the stage here, because I think a lot of people think that diabetes isn't a blood sugar problem. And it is, but it's also a blood vessel problem. You may remember that I had a whole conversation about all the complications, and I talk a lot about it because that's one of my main issues is that I'm really trying to avoid those long-term complications, whether it's heart disease, kidney disease, peripheral nerve disease, going blind, all of those things. And when your blood sugar has been elevated for a long time, it just damages the lining of your blood vessels. Now, the lining of your blood vessels, it's called the endothelium, and it's basically a protective coating that's inside every artery and every vein in your body. So when that gets damaged, inflammation sets in. Plaque, you probably heard that before, it starts to build up, and that's when you get heart disease and setting yourself up for a heart attack. Now, I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you this because knowing gives power. Because you can actually measure what's happening inside the vessels, you can track it, and that's how we're going to make changes, right? These cardiac markers, they kind of give us a window into what's happening inside the heart, the blood vessels, usually before you have symptoms. And that window is everything because if you can catch it early, then you can actually do something about it before you start seeing those complications crop up. As a nurse practitioner, my A1C was 8.1, and I had no idea that it was even I wasn't even thinking about my heart at that time. I'm just thinking about, "Oh my gosh, I need to lose weight," because that's the thing that you see. And then when I got my 8.1 diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, I started realizing, okay, I need to start working on my A1C. And honestly, that's what everyone talks about. A1C needs to be down. You need to lower your blood sugar. But I'm telling you right now that your heart is suffering in the background. And so hopefully with this podcast, we're going to change that. All right. So we're going to actually walk through the actual markers, and I'm going to keep this practical. I want you to be able to either pull out your lab report if you have it, or if you haven't gotten your labs done, definitely want to take some notes because these are the kind of things that you want to ask your doctor about and have a real serious conversation at your next visit. The first one I'm going to look at is called high sensitivity C-reactive protein. This is one of my favorites to talk about because it's so underused. It's HS, it might look like HS dash cap letters CRP. This measures inflammation inside of your body. And so remember what I just said about inflammation? It's what drives that damage inside of your blood vessels. Now, the standard CRP test that your doctor might get sometimes, honestly, I've never gotten it done before. They're going to be looking at big dramatic changes. like if you have an infection or a recent injury. But the high sensitivity version, it actually picks up the low grade, slow burn inflammation that doesn't make you feel sick necessarily, but it absolutely is wearing on your heart over time. Now, we want this number to be below 1, and of course, zero point 0.5 is even better. Now, between 1 and 3, you start saying you have a moderate risk, and above 3, that's high risk, and that's when we really need to talk. Mine, pulled up my labs here, it was 9, okay, and it has steadily increased over the last year. I think it started off at just gonna pull it up, at 4, and then it went to 6.8, and now it's 9, and so I'm doing all of these changes, honestly, and really trying to understand what's going on inside of my body, not just focusing on the A1C. So it was a little bit disappointing looking at that number. I'm like, okay, I've been doing a lot of work to try to get my inflammation down. But if I'm really honest with myself, the last 12 months, I've been focusing a lot on my A1C, just trying to get it down, which I did, 5.4, but now I have more work to do. Now, a lot of people with type 2 diabetes, they might come in and their CRP is in the twos and threes, and they had no idea that it was elevated. Their doctor may have run it, but nobody talked about what it meant. Honestly, your doctor probably hadn't even got this number. So, definitely, this is one to look for because it not only talks specifically about the heart, but it's just inflammation in your body. Now, remember, type 2 diabetes, it is on the foundation of it is a metabolic illness. And when you have metabolic disease, it's nothing but inflammation going on throughout your body. Everything is out of whack. Hormones aren't working properly. And so we really want to bring that inflammation down over time so that everything can work properly. Now, the next one is lipoprotein little a. Maybe it looks like LPA in parentheses on your lab report. And it's the one that no one talks enough about. Honestly, I'm just now learning about it. I don't, we had labs in school, but definitely didn't go this far in depth. But I genuinely cannot figure out why no one talks about it because it is a significant cardiac risk factor. And again, this is not going to be something that your doctor is generally not going to check LPA. Now, if you have gone to a specialist, perhaps like a cardiac specialist, they might check this. I honestly don't know. I've never really seen a cardiologist. When I was pregnant, I did. But anyway, I don't remember this being a part of the conversation. Now, LPA is a type of LDL, which I'm sure you've heard of, the bad cholesterol. But it's a smaller, stickier particle. And remember, when your cholesterol is circulating in your blood, the higher the cholesterol goes, the more it starts sticking into those blood vessels. The plaque buildup is what we think about. And then blood flow is restricted to your heart, sometimes your brain. That's a stroke. Of course, if it's restricted to your heart, then that's a heart attack. And so we may have heard about this LDL, but this LPA just goes a little bit deeper, and you have different sized particles. This LPA is a smaller particle and it's stickier, so it's going to cling to the vessels a lot more readily than large, fluffier LDLs. And so mine, looking down, I have medium, small particle numbers, and now they're all high, but the LPA was 83, and last year was 76, so it's steadily going up. Unfortunately, this lab value is largely genetic, and this is the part that kind of struck me by surprise. I had no idea. I'm thinking for the longest time, my doctor wanted to give me medication for my cholesterol because it was right there on the borderline because the total cholesterol is actually a little bit elevated, nothing like, "Okay, I need to do something about now." And they tried to give me medicine, and I was like, "I don't really want medicine, and I just wanna do more vegetables and fruit and decrease red meat and lifestyle changes like that." But unfortunately, lifestyle changes for this LPA, it doesn't really move it much at all. So if yours is high, it's not your fault. Let that go. Let any guilt or shame go. But you need to know all about this number so that you can take it seriously. And there are some things that you can do. Now, the optimal level is below 30 milligrams per deciliter. You might see 30 mg. Some labs measure it in nanomoles per liter. And so then you want that number below 75. Now, if your LPA is elevated, that doesn't mean that you're destined for a heart attack. It means that you need to work extra hard on everything else. Okay. So you want to keep your blood sugar stable. You want to manage your other lipids. You want to exercise because that's going to increase your good cholesterol and that's going to kind of counterbalance. You don't want to smoke. You definitely want to give that up. Smoking, y'all, if you smoke and you're listening to this, smoking just kind of makes your risk go up exponentially. So it constricts your blood vessels, it decreases blood flow even more so. And I know it's extremely hard because it is addicting. And so, luckily, I think there are lots of medications out there that can help you if you are smoking. So, definitely want to start decreasing that, eliminating it completely. And then also controlling the inflammation is going to be very important. And we'll get into how to do that later on in this episode. Now, so when you have this high number, that means everything else has to be honestly tighter. Okay. Now, again, you're going to have to ask for this lab. Okay. It's LPA. And of course, your doctor's probably going to run these individually. It's part of a big panel. But I got my labs, and I talk about this at the other podcast too. I got it done at Function Health. There are other companies that do comprehensive labs. Function Health, I just went with because I do follow Dr. Hyman, and I think it's a really great service. They check for 80 plus labs, and you go once a year. It's $400 every year. And then I believe the second set, because they give you foods to avoid, food to enjoy, and then supplements to take. And then they want to retake your blood work like mid year or something like that. So I think it's well worth for me. My health is just priceless, honestly. I would probably pay a lot of money for a lot of different things to keep me healthy and to see what's going on inside. But if you can't, definitely talk to your doctor and just ask for all of these things that I'm telling you about. Insurance will likely pay for it because you're diabetic and there is an extra risk factor. Okay. Now, the third cardiac marker I want to talk about is apolipoprotein B. Now, this is one that's becoming more common, which I love. It's actually a better predictor of cardiovascular risk than just regular LDL cholesterol. That's the one that they always take. The standard LDL measures cholesterol inside the particles, and the ApoB counts the number of particles. And so it's actually the number of particles that determines how much damage can happen to your arteries. Now, you can have a normal LDL cholesterol, but a high ApoB, and that means that you have a lot of small, dense particles that are particularly good at sneaking into those arteries, causing blockages. Now, the optimal ApoB is below 80, and if you have diabetes or existing heart disease, below 90 is reasonable for lower risk individuals. Now, this one is worth tracking over time because it gives you a better picture of what your cholesterol is actually doing. Now, my ApoB number is 112 and it started off at 88, which was pretty good. Definitely need to figure out in the last year why the inflammation has ticked up. So you definitely want to get that one checked. Now, we're going to talk about homocysteine again. I did kind of touch on this last week, and it's one of my favorite ones actually that I'm just discovering. Again, not really understanding what homocysteine was before, but educating myself because my homocysteine levels were pretty high. And let me just try to pull it up. My homocysteine was pretty high and it was 12.8. Last year it was 11.1. I didn't really pay attention to this number last year. I just said, okay, this is cool. This is where I'm starting from. Let's see how it is this year. Now I'm really trying to understand what each of these labs mean for me personally. But homocysteine is an amino acid that your body produces when it breaks down protein. Normally, your body converts it and will clear it out, no problem. But if you're low in certain B vitamins, or maybe you have the genetic variation of the MTHFR, then it starts to build up. An elevated homocysteine damages the lining of your blood vessels. Yet again, another one that damages the vessels. It's also associated with a higher risk of blood clots. So you want your homocysteine below 10, ideally closer to 7 or 8. And the good news here is that it's very responsive to nutrition and supplements. specifically B12, folate, and B6. Now, I'll come back to these when we get to the supplement section of this podcast, but I want you to understand that for me personally, I have the genetic variant for the MTHFR, and I didn't realize that. I did a 23andMe genetic test several years ago, and I never looked at this because I just didn't know to look for it. And so that's why I'm telling you. But um, when I went back after learning that my homocysteine level was high, and I've been taking B vitamins, really the multivitamins with B in it, for a year, religiously taking every morning, and to see that my homocysteine was still high, and there must be something else going on. So typically, the normal population, if you have the genetic variant, it doesn't really cause symptoms or you're not going to feel it. But if your homocysteine is also high, that kind of gives you a clue that you might have the genetic variant. That just means that your body is not absorbing those vitamin B that you're taking. So all this time that I've been taking vitamin B, it needs to be the methylated version so that my body can absorb it. Now, you could get it from diet as well. Vitamin B is readily available in fish, but I don't eat a lot of fish. I don't really even care for a lot of fish, but now I'm going to make sure that I hone in on that this year. And so that's worth checking if you do get this homocysteine level and it's high and you've been taking vitamins and in the back of your mind, maybe you think you have the variant, you could do one of two things. Either just buy the methylated version of the vitamin B or get your genetic test to verify. I was able to go on 23andMe and I have a premium, um, I'm in the premium program. You know, you pay monthly and they spit out all these different genetic things every month. I'll get an email. And I did have the variant. So that was helpful for me to now, okay, now I need to get the methylated version, take that, supplement, eat more fish, and then come back and see what this homocysteine level is. Talk a little bit about fasting insulin. And I know some of you are probably like, that's not a cardiac marker. I did talk about it in the first of this series when I talked about the endocrine markers, but you're absolutely right. It's traditionally not a cardiac marker, but I include it in every single conversation about labs because insulin resistance is the engine that's driving all the other numbers. Okay. When your insulin is not working properly and it's chronically elevated, it promotes inflammation. This contributes to high triglycerides. It raises your blood pressure. This is your ApoB. It raises your LPA. Insulin resistance is the thread that connects all of these things and the cardiovascular disease as well. Now, your fasting insulin should be between 2 and 6. Now, some labs might list normal up to 25, which really doesn't tell you anything useful. So, you want to make sure your actual number is in a tighter range and compare that. Okay. If your fasting insulin is in the teens or 20s while you're fasting, that's a significant signal. That means that insulin resistance is actually happening in real time. Now, that's something you can work on, and over time, definitely reverse that insulin resistance. And again, we're going to talk about. Now, I want to take a second and talk about how to actually get your hand on labs and knowing what to do with them. A lot of people tell me that they get the results, and they actually, some of my friends just send me their results and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Because the doctor's not talking to them, unfortunately. Maybe you get a call from the nurse, maybe they're leaving a message, everything looked fine, but not really talking about each one and what maybe an elevated, even though you're in normal range, what it might mean. And I want to gently push back on really doing that. If you're a provider listening, we really owe it to our patients to give them information so that they have the tools so they can make some changes. So if I have a high cholesterol and it's at the high normal range, I should start making some changes so that it stays within range and it starts decreasing, right? Those reference ranges are set for general population, and sometimes they don't really even account for someone's higher risk than someone else, right? They're not set for someone who's working to prevent complications from type 2 diabetes necessarily. They're not working for people preventing diabetes if you're pre-diabetic. So technically you see those range and you might be normal and just move on with your life. But I really want you to try to hone in and see exactly where you are. Now you can always ask your call your doctor and ask them for a lab copy. If you get them from Quest or LabCorp, you can go on there and create a profile. They should have all of your labs there and just start there and see what maybe your doctor even run, you never know if they actually ran some of these things and they just didn't tell you what they were running. That happens so many times because it was normal. Like, oh, I don't need to really talk about it, right? But I want you to let them know that she won the hs-CRP, ApoB, and LPA, and fasting insulin numbers checked. And I would even add homocysteine in there, which we talked more about that at the last podcast. You can definitely go check that out because this is my three-part series of all these labs, and I'm not even touching everything that Function Health did. Okay? Now, if you want to go through Function Health, just go to functionhealth.com. I'm not getting paid for this. I just like the service and I'm sharing it with people because I just feel like there are so many things that we can do for our health right now that a lot of people don't know. You don't know what to ask for. You don't know what you don't know, right? And that's why I'm sharing this information now so that you can be equipped in Function Health. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to ask for these things. They're going to automatically run them. I actually did my first comprehensive labs were done when I signed up with a hormone, one of like MIDI Health or I did Alara, ALLARA, and they did a lot of women specific hormonal panels more than what my doctor had ever done. So there are services out there that some of them do take insurance, some of them don't. Function Health does not. It's a cash pay only. And again, Function Health, that's not the only comprehensive labs. I've seen more and more companies coming out. So just Google and see which one is affordable. If you can't, maybe HSA, even accepted from most of those places. But I highly recommend getting these done so that you can be equipped. And it's better to start getting a baseline. So maybe you've had diabetes for 20 years and you don't know this. It's better to start now so that you can start seeing trend, right? When I started this last year and I was able to get labs done in October, and then I'm getting the labs done now, I can see what has improved because there was a lot that improved. My A1C dropped from 8.1 to now it's 5.4. It's been 5.6, 5.7 for the last couple of years, and now we're down to 5.4. Great. And that's just not a number, right? That's months of decisions that you have made compounding. And that's what I want you to be able to see with your lab. So when you get that baseline and you continue to monitor from here on out, now you can start seeing, okay, when I gave up red meat for a month, it really, really helped. Okay. Um, you deserve to see that progress. So I really want you to start tracking that. Okay. So let's talk about what you can actually do because I'm all about taking action. I don't want to just hear all the bad news and numbers, but I want to know what can I do to reverse this course, make my number better. And I want to lead with this. The fundamentals 100% work. They work for your blood sugar and they work for your cardiac markers too. Now, I say that with a caveat, the lipo A protein, remember that's genetic. You may not be able to work your way out of that one. No amount of exercise or nutrition is going to change that, but you can take supplements and there are some medications, especially on the horizon, that will really directly attack this. So, if you're already doing the blood sugar work and you're already helping your heart, great. Those are not separate projects, in case I have to remind you. Every time your blood sugar spikes and crashes, you're creating inflammation every single time. And the inflammation will show up in the high CRP. It's damaging your blood vessel lining and it makes everything else just harder. The goal is not a perfect diet, the goal is a stable one. Protein at every meal or protein first at every meal, fiber before carbs, not eating carbs alone, empty stomach. I have chocolate chip cookies out there waiting on me, but I'm going to hold off because I want to eat it at the end of a balanced meal. You just want to flatten the curve. And when I say flatten the curve, I mean, personally, I'm using my CGM and I talk about my CGM a lot because I absolutely love it. Um, but you see there, it is pretty much a flat line all day. I've only had breakfast. And yeah, after I ate breakfast, which was around 10, it's spiked up a little bit, but it's pretty much in that green zone. You want to stay in the green zone, but is even, I guess, a secondary goal is to have it as flat as possible. I love to have this glucose monitor because it really tells me in real time after I've eaten an hour later, it's going to tell me that my blood sugar did well. I can also look at trends over time. So the flatter you have that, the less inflammation is happening. And I think lately, I think in the back of my mind, I realize that because I get so anxious, especially when I eat something and I know it's carb heavy, I start getting thirsty and I know, and a little headache. So I know my blood sugar is higher. And I look on there and sure enough, it is higher. And so I'm just reminded that, okay, I can reduce some inflammation in this real time. I can go for a walk. I can do some squats because any exercise that you can do is going to help your body calm and get rid of the inflammation because it's just counteracting that. Okay. You can and in terms of your meals, starting your day with scrambled eggs, I ate spinach and eggs today. I didn't necessarily want to eat eggs. I don't get excited about that all the time. Sometimes I do. I'm like, oh, I can make a veggie omelet and I make it really personalized and lots of good stuff in there. But I ate it. And I know that I eat the spinach. It's going to be soluble fiber that's feeding my good gut bacteria. That's going to help insulin resistance even at the gut um, level. It's with protein, and they also have other things, other nutrients in there. And even a handful of tomatoes on the side. I actually started buying the big thing from Costco, and every time I'm getting my food ready, I might just have some tomatoes, and I'm giving myself lots of micronutrients, and I'm starting my meal with fiber, which is going to coat that stomach to help reduce the spike from whatever I'm eating. So I know it sounds boring, it's nothing sexy, but my A1C is 5.4 as a result. So I'm going to continue that for sure, but I need to go a few more steps beyond that so that I can start reducing this inflammation. So walking after meals, which I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% doing that consistently. I will definitely walk in the morning or in the evening, but it's hard. It's hard to find those times to walk. But I want to challenge all of us, including myself, to really think about, okay, I ate a meal, let me go for a walk. Even if you're at work and you go to the break room, maybe you just go around the hallway if you can, or the building outside a couple of times, and then go back and sit at your desk. I think what we'll start seeing is our numbers trending down for inflammation. And then another thing that we don't talk enough about is stress and sleep. Cortisol raises blood sugar, cortisol raises inflammation, and cortisol messes with your lipids. Chronic stress, which I think that we are all under these days, poor sleep are both cortisol factories. And you might say, okay, well, you have a busy life, you have lots of kids, a demanding job, maybe you have both. I do too. I have 6 kids, stressed out. I know exactly what it looks like. And I'm not telling you that you have to eliminate stress. That's simply not possible in our fast paced world. I'm just telling you not to skip out on quality sleep. I want you to take care of yourself. And sometimes you just have to put yourself first. When you're sleeping less than 6 hours, it's costing you metabolically, and your cortisol is going to be high all day long. You're going to crave high carb food, and the cycle continues. I want you to protect your stress and mental health and your sleep because it absolutely matters. All right, now let's talk about supplements. Now, I want to be upfront about something before I get into this. Supplements are not a replacement for the food that you're going to eat and the lifestyle changes that you absolutely need to make. It's not a cheat code, they're a support system. And you always want to talk to your doctor before starting supplements. I'm not giving medical advice, I'm simply telling you what I'm implementing to help my body. Now, that said, there is some solid evidence behind all of these supplements, and I use them personally and recommend them to other people. Let's go through each of them. Berberine. Berberine, if you listen to me for any length of time, you know that I love berberine. Actually, I just started taking it a few months ago, but I've been reading all about it, and I think it has some really promising aspects. They say it's kind of the nature's metformin. It helps your cells respond better to insulin. It lowers your fasting blood sugar, and it has some data showing that it can also reduce LDL and triglycerides. Now, for cardiac markers specifically, berberine helps lower hs-CRP. Whoop whoop! I can't wait to see the difference. Remember, that's the inflammation piece, and it also improves the ApoB in some research. Now, the standard dose is around 500 milligrams, taken with meals 2 to 3 times a day. You want to also take it with food to minimize that stomach upset, which I've never had a problem with it. I always take it right after my meal. Now, if you're on metformin already, be sure to talk to your doctor before adding berberine because If it's as powerful as they say it is, then it could drop your blood sugar too low. So you want to be very careful. I have been taking berberine probably for about 3 weeks now, and I noticed that my blood sugar is way more stable than it has been. And on the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I must be in the first half of my cycle, which is hard for me to tell because I had a hysterectomy in December. And you think it should be easier, but it's not. I just wonder if that's one of the major contributors. I don't take metformin either. I do take Manjaro when I remember to take it, but the berberine has helped me on a daily basis, and I take it 2 to 3 times a day. I honestly only eat maybe twice a day, sometimes 3, so I don't take berberine unless I'm eating. So definitely give that a try. Now, we also have omega-3 fatty acids, which is the fish oil. I just started taking this religiously also the last 3 weeks once I got my blood work back because I don't know why I've been opposed to taking omega-3 fatty acids. They're big pills, and you really do need to take 3 or 4 of them a day. And I think in my mind, I'm like, all of those pills at once, ludicrous. But what I've done is broken them up, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I take some pills at bedtime. Now, fish oil is one of the most studied supplements for cardiovascular protection, also for brain protection. I'm learning about too for dementia and Alzheimer's. And the evidence really holds up. So, high quality omega 3, it reduces triglycerides, it lowers the CRP level, and all the associated cardiovascular events that people are at risk for. And the key word here is high quality. There are some cheap versions. So, you really want to make sure that you're getting a high quality fish oil. I personally use pure encapsulations for all of my vitamins pretty much, and I've been happy with them. Um, you want at least 2 to 4 grams of the combined EPA and DHA each day. So you just want to look on the back of the bottle and make sure it has the EPA and DHA, not just the total fish oil content. Some other brands that you can look out for include Carlson, Nordic Naturals, and Thorne. I'm not getting paid, remember. Just Google research and find some high quality ones. Now, let's talk about magnesium. All right. Magnesium deficiency is very common in people with type 2 diabetes. I'm learning that with insulin resistance, you don't have good magnesium. You're not absorbing it very well. When you're high blood sugar, it causes you to excrete more magnesium also through your urine. Now, low magnesium is associated with insulin resistance, so it's another cycle, right? You have elevated blood pressure too, and a high inflammation. Now, the magnesium that you want to focus on is glycinate because there are a lot of different ones. And this will actually help with insulin sensitivity, your blood pressure regulation, and actually your sleep quality. And we just talked about how sleep affects your cardiac risk. And take magnesium glycinate at night, and it's the gentlest form on your stomach, and it has mild calming effect and helps with sleep. Now, you want to start with 200 to 400 milligrams before bed and see how you feel. I have started magnesium probably for over a year, and I take it at night right after my dinner, along with vitamin D with K, because that vitamin D is actually going to help magnesium be absorbed even more. So I would even add that. It's not technically on the cardiac marker talk, but definitely want to add magnesium and vitamin D together. So, um, magnesium helps in so many ways. It actually helps you feel calm. I take that with chamomile tea and I have a really good sleep. So definitely give that a try. If you are not taking magnesium, please add this to your regimen if nothing else from this episode. And then we have B vitamins. B vitamins, we kind of talked about a little bit for the homocysteine. If you suspect that you have the variant, you want to take the methylated version. Remember when I said homocysteine is responsive to nutrition, and this is where the vitamin B comes in. Specifically, you need folate as methylfolate, not folic acid, if you could help it, because some people can't convert that folic acid. Remember, we talked about the variant, the gene variant. You want B12 as methylcobalamin and B6. A good methylated B complex covers all of these. If your homocysteine come back elevated, this is one of the first things that I would add, which I did just a few weeks ago. Give it 60 to 90 days, and then you can recheck your homocysteine levels. And then you have CoQ10. Coenzyme Q10 is a compound your body produces naturally and is critical for energy production in your cells, including your heart cells. And if you're on a statin medication, statins actually deplete CoQ10, and statin is very commonly prescribed, especially if you are a diabetic, if you're African American. It is protective of our heart and really helps to reduce that risk, but just keep that in mind. So you definitely want to add CoQ10. Supplementing 100 to 200 milligrams of this daily with a fatty meal, because it's fat soluble, can help with absorption. And even if you're not on a statin, CoQ10 supports cardiovascular function and has antioxidant properties that support the health of your blood vessels. So definitely want to add this to your regimen. And then you have vitamin D, which I talked about in the magnesium. Low vitamin D is incredibly common in women and African American. Okay, because we don't absorb the vitamin D from the sun because our skin is melanated. It's associated with increased cardiovascular risk, worse insulin sensitivity, because vitamin D actually helps with insulin sensitivity, and higher levels of inflammation. Getting a theme here, inflammation is everywhere, and we need all of these supplements. And unfortunately, our diets are just crap these days. So we definitely want to make sure we're supplementing along with eating balanced food. You can't go to McDonald's and Burger King every day and take these supplements and call it a day. Okay. Now, for vitamin D, you want about 50 to 80. I take about 5,000 IU of vitamin D3. D3 is readily absorbed, so you want to find that along with the K12. They come together in one pill. It's a little tiny pill, super easy, doesn't hurt my stomach or anything. Um, you want to take it with your fatty meal of the day, of course. That's why I said I take it after dinner. Okay? Now, these are just a few of the supplements that I recommend. I do have a supplement guide, so if you want that, be sure to comment and I will get that over to you. All right, guys. So that was the last installment of the lab series. Now, we covered a lot of ground and not even half of what Function Health does cover and any other comprehensive lab out there. Um, the blood sugar markers we talked about nutrition markers, and now the cardiac markers. And I don't tell you all of these things, remember, to help to make you worry or scare you. But here's the thing. You're not worrying about them, you're watching them. This is just a starting point, a guide, if you will, so that we can start seeing trends over time and being proactive instead of reactive. My goal for me and you is to avoid those long-term complications of type 2 diabetes. And one way that we're going to get there is knowledge. We have to empower ourselves by understanding what's happening on the inside of our bodies, not just focusing on how we look outside. Is our weight okay? Is our A1C doing well? We have all of these things that are at our fingertips that we can actually control. And if we don't know it, we don't know what to do about it. So I want you to do a few things this week. Pull out your labs, see what your doctor has already taken, ask Quest, Labs, we need to, or excuse me, LabCorp. If you don't have them, make a list of all the labs that we talked about in these 3 podcasts. I would highly encourage you to go back and listen to the other ones and write down the list of things that you want to get done. Take them to your doctor. Side note, if your doctor doesn't want to work with you, find a new provider. Diabetes is a chronic illness. We need support and we need to find providers that are going to work with us, not tell us what to do, and not ones that aren't listening to us. So I'm very much an advocate of finding a doctor that you're going to gel with and that are going to be supporting you. Okay? That's all I got for you. If this episode helped you, please share it with someone who needs it. Share it with a friend, send it to your loved one, and also subscribe and leave a review. It's very helpful for us, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Ditching Diabetes with the Diabetes Maven. Share this episode with a friend and leave a review so more women can ditch diabetes for good. Grab all of your free guides and resources at thediabetesmaven.com, and I'll see you in the next episode. Stay well.